Light beanie. It is worked in vertical rows with short rows at the top to shape the crown. And it uses 2 stitches only. It uses slip stitch and double slip stitch. So today I'm going to show you how to start the beanie and how to work these short rows so that you can complete it yourself. Now the Pescador Light is worked with fingering weight yarn, but for the sake of this video I'm going to use worsted weight so that you can see things a bit clearer. You will start with a chain. Depending on the length of your beanie, this chain will change lengths. I'm not going to make it as long as it should be because I just want to do a demonstration. So now that I have my chain, the bottom is where my hook is, and this is going to be the top end of the beanie, the one where the end of the chain is. So what I'm going to do is from the top, I'm going to count downwards the amount of stitches or chains that the pattern calls for. Now, since this is a demonstration, I'm not going to do as many as the pattern calls for, but I'm going to count 6. 2, 4, 6, let's do 8. All right, and I'm going to place a marker in the next chain. So I have my marker and then I have 8 chains after that. Make sure that you follow the directions in the pattern. Now, something to keep in mind is that rows are marked as up rows and down rows. Up rows always go from the bottom to the top, from the brim to the crown. Down rows go from the crown towards the brim. Now, all up rows will be worked in double slip stitch and all down rows will be worked in slip stitch. If you want to know how to make double slip stitch in a more detailed way, you can check out my video over here. Okay, so this following row is going to be an up row, which means that it's going to be worked in double slip stitch. Now, this is my very first row and I prefer to work in the back bump of my chain. As you see there, there's like little bumps at the back. So it just makes it for a neater edging later on, but you can work wherever you feel more comfortable. So for a double slip stitch, you yarn over, insert your hook, then pull through the stitch or the chain and also through these 2 loops in your hook. I'll show you again. Yarn over, insert hook, the yarn over and pull through 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. So I don't yarn over again. I'll show you again. Yarn over, insert my hook. Oh, there it is. Yarn over and pull through 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, a good trick that I find helpful is after I pull through my stitch, I hold on to this middle loop so that I can pull through those 2 loops. All right, I'm going to show you again. Insert, pull through, hold on to that middle loop with my thumb, and then pull through everything. Also, as you can see, my hook kind of looks downwards so that I can more easily pass through. I've reached my marker, so I'm going to take away this standing marker, and instead I'm going to use a scrap piece of yarn to mark that stitch because that marker is going to move along on every row. So I continue working, and on row 1 I'm going to work until 1 stitch from the end of the row, or 1 chain in this case. Okay, so I have left a chain right there, and the stitch count in the pattern is going to consider the stitches from the end of the row to your marker, so above this marker. Now below the marker, it can be as long or as short as you want to. If you want a really long beanie, then adjust the length as much as you desire. All right, now that I am here, I'm going to chain one and turn. Now this is a down row, which means that I'm going to work only on slip stitch, and they're all going to be on the back loop only. All right, so I'm going to skip the first stitch, which is this guy, and I'm going to slip into the next one. A good way to make slip stitches so that they're easy is to kind of just yarn over. Then I turn my hook looking downwards, and I hold onto my work with my thumb so that I can pull through in one single movement. You want to keep these stitches as loose as possible so that you're able to work in them in the future. So insert my hook and then pull through everything in one go. As you see, I kind of hold on to my work over here so that it can pull through in one movement. I know slip stitches can be a bit daunting, but if you just work on a way that they are easier, it just goes so much smoother. Okay, so I'm going to slip stitch all the way to the end. There you go. Then I'm going to turn, and this one is an up row, which means it's a double slip stitch row, but it's worked on the back loop. So from now on, everything will be done on the back loop only. So yarn over from the first stitch on the back loop. I start with my double slip stitches. This is sometimes also called a yarn over slip stitch or a double slip stitch. And it creates a very nice ribbing. Pass my marker, and then I continue until one stitch from the end of the row. Okay, there you go. I have one stitch right there. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches above my marker. I turn, go down, and then I'm going to skip the first stitch, go to the next one, and slip stitch on the back loop only until the end of the row. So again, I work to my marker, then I pass my marker, and then I continue. So in every pair of rows, I will decrease 2 stitches, or on every row, I will decrease 1 stitch at the top. Okay, so those last 2 rows, I'm going to repeat them again until I have no more stitches left above my marker. So slip stitch, double slip stitch on the back loop only on up rows. Until 1 stitch from the end of the row. And then I skip the first stitch and slip stitch on the back loop only all the way to the end of the row.
Depending on the size that you're working and the segment that you're on, you will finish your short row section with 2 stitches above the marker or with 0 stitches above the marker. So follow the pattern.
Okay, there you are. Now I have worked all of my pairs of rows, and now I am at my marked stitch at the very top of my row, which means that the following row is going to be one where I go along the short rows to join them together. So on my next up row, I will chain one, then double stitch, slip stitch to the end of the row, which in this case is where my marker is. Then I'm going to pass my marker and work this stitch. Okay, and then I'm going to work on the side of the short row. So I'm going to make sure I pick 2 strands of yarn. I don't want to make a big hole in here, but I also want to make sure I grab enough material. And then another double stitch, slip stitch in the next stitch, on the back loop only. A stitch on the step. I like to grab onto this little loop and then that little loop over there, so I have 2 loops. Pull through, and then a slip stitch, a double slip stitch in the next stitch on the back loop only. And I continue all the way to the end of my short rows. Now on this very first segment, the last stitch in which I'm going to work is actually from the starting chain. So as you can see, that's my starting chain, so I'm going to work my last stitch right there. Okay, and then chain 1, turn. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 stitches again above my marker, just like I had at the beginning on that turning chain. Then I'm going to go down and slip stitch in every stitch of the row on the back loop only again. Remember to keep your slip stitches loose, and you see how I kind of hold on to the back of my work with my fingers so that I can just literally slip past, slip through. There you go. So that is my first segment. Now I'm going to repeat the segment and until I have 6 segments, and depending on the size, you might do a few more rows or less rows. So the last short row, instead of finishing at the marker, might finish above the marker. So you just need to make sure you follow the right instructions for the size that you are making. And after that, we are going to join the beanie at the side. So this is the way it looks like after the beanie has been completed. As you can see, the marker is running through that line. You can see it on both sides. Now I'm just going to take that off now that I have finished the whole thing. Okay, and then what you need to do is decide which one's going to be your right side. So there is this one, and then there is this look. So I like this one to be my right side, but you can choose whichever one. And then you're going to put the beanie with the right sides in to join this edging. The way I've done it leaves this ridge over here intact, which means that you're going to use this loop at the back to leave that V at the front of the work. So you're going to join this back loop with the starting chain from this side. So I'm just going to put it inside both loops and work a slip stitch there. Alright, so I'm going to show you again. Insert in this back loop and then find the next chain, both loops of that chain, and make a slip stitch. And I'm going to do that all along the seam. The reason why there are 2 loops on the starting chain is because we use the back bump of the chain. If you didn't do that, then that bit will look different. Alright, so this is the back. Let me just show you what it's looking like. You have the seam there, and on the right side these will be almost joined together, so it will look the same all around. So I'll continue doing this and I'll show you what it looks like at the end. Okay, so this is the wrong side. I've joined it all, and on the right side it will look like this. So it's not fully seamless, but it's not that huge of a deal. Okay, so now I can cut this bit to weave it in, and then for the last little bit I'm going to close this crown. So you can use the tail that you left at the beginning if you have enough yarn. Mine is pretty tight, but I think it will work. And with a tapestry needle, you're just going to join these last little bits. So you should have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Yeah. So just weave through them. To close that hole. And then on the inside, you're just going to make a little knot. And then weave that in later on. And that's it.
I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please be sure to like and subscribe. See you next time. Bye bye.